This episode of Rhizome is brought to you in part by the Synthesis Security Group and Fuzzy Wuzzy Signal Processing, a venture of Ian Swanke. Copyright 2026. All rights reserved.
Okay, welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to dive right in and unpack the fascinating, massive physical anomaly of the most iconic horror punk band in history. You know, when we think of punk rock, a very specific, kind of scruffy image usually comes to mind, right? But the Misfits, they completely shattered that mold. We're going to explore exactly how they built their legendary physiques, the absolute militant discipline required to maintain that size for decades, and the really fascinating dietary evolution that keeps their core members totally shredded to this day. Right out of the gate, there's this immediate visual contradiction. In the late 70s and 80s, the standard punk rock aesthetic was strictly defined. We're talking scrawny, often malnourished looking, and fiercely anti-establishment, which essentially meant being actively anti-jock. But then you have the Misfits. Glenn Danzig, Jerry Only, and Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein definitely did not look like your typical punks. Honestly, they looked like massive comic book villains who just happened to play incredibly fast, aggressive music. And trust me, this wasn't an accident.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Building the Monsters, Exploring the Origins. Let's see how this all started.
We have to start with the frontman Glenn Danzig. Danzig actually stated he was attracted to this Nietzschean idea of perfection. He wasn't just throwing heavy weights around aimlessly at the local gym hoping to get big. He had a deeply philosophical, deliberate approach to it. He wanted a heavily muscled, yet distinctly cut physique, and he actively went out of his way to avoid that bloated, flabby look that was super common among the local steroid users in New Jersey at the time. He was seeking a sculpted, almost statuesque kind of perfection.
He literally treated his body as a serious study. Danzig was reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding just to understand the actual mechanics of muscle sculpting. On top of that, he practiced Jeet Kune Do, the martial art founded by Bruce Lee, and he was grinding in the gym lifting weights 4 to 5 times a week. This was a rigorous, highly athletic discipline he locked in long before the band ever even stepped onto a stage.
Then you bring in the Kayafata brothers, bassist Jerry Only and guitarist Doyle. These guys brought a natural jock-like intensity to the group right from day one. They were just naturally big, athletic kids. Jerry played football for all 4 years of high school, which basically baked that physical gridiron intensity right into his DNA. His younger brother Doyle took a slightly different path, but got equally massive results because he actually started lifting weights in grade school back in the mid-1970s. So they basically built the band's foundation on pure, unadulterated athleticism.
And it's pretty funny when you hear why Doyle originally started bodybuilding as a kid. He gave this incredibly blunt, hilarious admission, saying, "When you have no friends, you've got to do something." I mean, that perfectly captures the solitary dedication of lifting weights, right? Because of that early start, by the time Doyle officially joined the Misfits at the incredibly young age of 16, 16, his frame was already a massive, imposing presence.
This brings us to Section 2, the horror aesthetics, building a universe.
So here's the thing. This muscle wasn't just for show or vanity. It was actually a foundational element of their art. The Misfits were completely obsessed with B-horror movies, sci-fi, and comic books, and they were actively world-building. They crafted this crazy signature look with their Devilock hairstyles, heavy skull makeup, and spiked leather armor. But think about it. That armor and makeup wouldn't have worked nearly as well if they were just skinny kids. In a punk scene full of teenagers wearing dirty t-shirts, they wanted to look like literal monsters and superheroes. Their sheer physical size is what made that horror aesthetic genuinely otherworldly and intimidating. Now, getting big is one thing, but staying big? That is an entirely different beast. Consider the environment of a touring punk band. It is notorious for terrible food, absolutely zero sleep, and constant, grueling travel. So you have to ask yourself, how do you maintain this kind of superhuman mass for half a century under those conditions? Let's transition into Section 3, militant discipline and diet, focusing on longevity. While a lot of their punk rock peers were quite literally destroying their bodies with drugs and alcohol on the road, the core members of the Misfits treated their bodies like high-performance machines. Just take a second to process this number, 50. That is the number of years Doyle has been continuously lifting weights. Half a century of unbroken consistency. His discipline is so absolute that he literally lugs adjustable dumbbells onto the tour bus with him to ensure he never misses a single workout. Talk about zero excuses.
But, as they say, you can't out-train a bad diet. Over time, Doyle's approach to nutrition had to evolve. For years, he followed that traditional bodybuilder bro diet, tons of chicken breast and whey protein. But eventually, he became entirely grossed out by it. He was only eating those animal products because he thought he had to for muscle growth, but he absolutely hated it. This physical revulsion actually led to a pretty radical dietary shift later in his life. Which brings us to a massive number for you, 200. Today, Doyle maintains his absolutely shredded physique by consuming over 200 grams of plant-based protein a day. He transitioned to a strict, high-protein vegan diet, entirely abandoning the industry-standard animal products. Now, to hit a number like 200 grams strictly from plants, that takes a highly customized, meticulously planned meal strategy. Let's look at exactly how he pulls that off in Section 4, The Vegan Hunter, Touring Logistics. Doyle is super quick to stress that vegan bodybuilding isn't some kind of magic. It's simply real food stripped of animal products. His core pillars are pretty straightforward. First, whole, nutrient-dense foods, plenty of vegetables, fruits, and complex carbs. He actively avoids processed vegan junk food or fake meats because he wants clean inputs to keep his performance high. Second, to hit that massive protein requirement, he relies on high-quality, all-natural plant-based blends from a company called Conscious Muscle. And third, it's all about consistency. He uses meal delivery services like Trifecta for pre-prepared, low-sodium vegan meals that he can just heat up and eat to easily hit his nutrition windows. But what about when the band is out on the road, navigating some of the worst food environments on Earth? This is where the true logistics shine. Step 1, daily shopping. No matter what, they make it a priority to hunt for fresh ingredients every single day. Step 2, digital reconnaissance. He uses the Happy Cow app to track down nutritionally sound vegan restaurants wherever the tour bus lands. Step 3, the travel kit. He always keeps a stash of protein powder and bars on hand just in case they end up in a total food desert. It's this step-by-step hunter mentality that guarantees he never has to compromise his diet with gas station snacks. It's honestly fascinating to see the stark contrast between expectations and reality here. The classic rock star stereotype is all about partying all night after a show, heavy drinking, and eating terrible road food. But Doyle's reality? His version of a wild post-show party is a bowl of oatmeal before bed to aid in muscle recovery. He consumes zero alcohol because he views it as completely detrimental to his progress and longevity. Looking like a misfit actually requires extreme, meticulous daily discipline that is the complete opposite of the rock and roll cliché. When people ask him about his diet, he totally dismisses the idea that it's complicated. The huge takeaway here is the sheer simplicity of his philosophy. Just vegetables, fruits, and grains. Remove the animal products and keep the protein intake high. By treating his body like a finely tuned machine that requires specific, incredibly clean fuel, he has managed to maintain his signature size and intimidating stage presence for decades. So I want to leave you with a final thought to wrap up this explainer. If a turning punk rock monster can maintain a 50-year lifting streak and a meticulous plant-based diet while literally living out of a tour bus, what's stopping the rest of us from optimizing our own daily routines? I'll let you sit with that thought, challenge your own perspectives on what's possible, and realize what you can achieve with a bit of discipline, clean nutrition, and a whole lot of attitude. Thanks for tuning in.
Now available exclusively on Amazon Kindle eBooks, Rhizome Summer 2026, a collection of essays, Rhizome Fall 2026 Book 2.